This movie begins as any good movie does, with a child being woken up by loud sex.
Yeah, every good story begins that way.
Younger brother Danny looks outside and sees two black men breaking into Edward Norton's car. He kicks his own door open and murders these two guys. The second guy ran, and Edward Norton did not let him go. Part of what is so disturbing about this scene is that Edward Norton gleefully crosses that line.
Yeah.
He almost takes the idea that he was able to kill someone he despises in self-defense as an opportunity to kill another and call it self-defense when it wasn't. We cut forward. Danny's in school. Derek's getting out of jail soon. He served a 3.5 year sentence or so. And we meet the principal of Danny's school, Dr. Bob Sweeney.
Avery Brooks. I love Avery Brooks because to me, he is Benjamin Sisko from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the best Starfleet captain in the whole franchise, in my opinion.
Wow.
Rivaled only by Picard.
Danny handed in a paper called My Mein Kampf. Dr. Bob Sweeney basically says, you're going to study directly under me or we will expel you because it's getting to be too much. Dr. Principal says, we're going to have our own class. We'll call it American History X. Danny is just as racist as his brother. And essentially part of what has formed this ideology among the brothers is that Danny and Derek's father was shot and killed by a drug dealer. And their father was also like hyper racist. And after their father was killed, Edward Norton's character is interviewed by a news crew. During the interview, he goes on an extremely racist rant. In the loss of his dad, he became his dad.
Basically blaming everybody he can.
Blaming all non-whites for all of America's problems.
With the American flag in the background of the shot.
He, shortly after that, gains a new father figure, so to speak, in the form of Cameron Alexander, who is a pretty high-profile Nazi in the area who lays low. He organizes a lot of white supremacy gang activity in the area. And at this point, the internet is newer technology available to the public, and it's played a part in uniting a lot of white supremacy gangs all over the country. So Cameron Alexander is basically bringing a lot of these gangs together, and he feels like Derek is going to be a pretty key part of uniting these supremacy gangs. So they call themselves the DOC, the Disciples of Cameron, and they reside in Venice Beach. Now, this movie does not play out chronologically. Anything that's taking place in the here and now is in color, and anything that is taking place in the past, including the movie's opening scene, is monochrome. And it jumps back and forth with this a lot. So chronologically, all the color footage starts when Derek gets out of prison. Everyone's playing basketball, having a good old time. Edward Norton says, hey, let's play black people versus white people. And whoever wins doesn't hang out at these courts anymore. White supremacy wins out and claims the basketball courts.
Which is wild. They want me to believe that a bunch of white guys won against a bunch of black guys in basketball, like street basketball. Yeah, I don't think so.
Man.
I can only suspend my disbelief so much. There's a scene where Danny's in the bathroom. Some kids are beating up another kid who is played by Christopher Masterson. I don't know if you noticed that, but it's Christopher Masterson from Malcolm in the Middle, Danny Masterson's brother.
Danny also literally just takes a drag on a cigarette and just blows smoke in one of the kids' faces. Derek gets out of jail after serving 3 years. He serves 3 years for voluntary manslaughter.
That is wild.
Which is crazy. And he is much more mellow and calm coming out of prison. So essentially, Derek starts to assimilate back into normal life. And through some various flashbacks, we see how Derek was with his family before he went to jail. In another scene that is extremely uncomfortable, that scene at the table is brutal, where he just essentially...
God, that was uncomfortable.
Where he fights with the whole family. He's stuffing food in his sister's face. Dr. Bob who's also the principal of the school, is also consulting with the police department to track some of these gangs. Like, he doesn't, for him, violence is not the solution. He's genuinely trying to help and get Danny to understand history as it really was, the atrocities that Hitler really committed.
Him taking the initiative to do that is the best part about this movie, in my opinion. That and his whole, and Norton's whole thing in prison.
It is really easy to give up on people like this. I can't even imagine what a TV cut of this movie would be like. I don't know what you do outside of just muting the audio instead of replacing it. Like, I'm so sick of all these Monday to Friday people playing on our Monday to Friday basketball court.
This movie is not for the faint of heart, like, at all. If you're someone who's easily offended or easily triggered, or, you know, certain things bother you or whatever, like content-wise, just don't watch it, man. Just stay away from it.
As he comes back, we get more monochrome flashbacks on some of the gang activity Derek committed before he went to jail, in another scene that is so uncomfortable, truly horrific.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Is the scene where Derek rallies the gang together outside of a grocery store and says, this grocery store used to be run by a white guy. Now it's run by an Asian guy.
When they raid that grocery store, that's when I really almost turned the movie off. So I was like,
the grocery store raid scene. I'm trying to figure out if uncomfortable is the right word for me, because the most common response I feel like you will get from someone who maybe sympathizes with some of these characters is, well, I'm not that bad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's probably, yeah.
Well,
I was thinking that, too.
I'm not bad.
Like, there's probably a lot of people that watch this. They're like, well, I'm not that bad, so I'm fine, you know.
I'm just asking questions. That's all I'm doing.
Right.
And their dad, in one of the flashbacks, even says something like that. There's a scene where it flashes back to where you meet their dad and start to understand where some of their ideologies came from. The dad finds out that Edward Norton's character, they're reading books about Black history in school. So the dad is basically like, critical race theory, you know, you should question things. You should think for yourself a little more. So suddenly the idea of, quote unquote, thinking for yourself suddenly turns to, it's bullshit. He didn't even get the chance to think for himself. He adopted his dad's thoughts, and his dad was like, there, see, you thought for yourself. Good job, son. You thought like me. Thus, you thought for yourself. I was like, wow. Danny and Derek reconnect, and he's got to write this paper, and Derek is different. So they have a party.
Whole party scene is so over the top. Like, they're really Hitlering it up in there. Like, there's people dressed like Hitler. I was like, yeah. Jeez, man.
Derek goes to this party to basically tell Cameron that he's done. And he told Danny not to go to this party. Guess what Danny did? He went to this party. And so Danny's talking with Cameron, and Cameron's like, we're looking forward to seeing your brother again, and you guys are going to do great things here. Good job being white, by the way. You're really good at being white. It's hard being white, but somebody's got to do it.
It ain't easy being white.
It ain't easy being brown. Derek comes in and sees Danny talking with Cameron, and he's like, hell no. He makes Danny leave, and he's like, stay away from my brother. I don't want him to be a part of this anymore. Cameron's like, oh yeah. And then Edward Norton's like, okay. Ed just punches Cameron in the face, and Cameron's like, oh, you're dead. You're going down. And so Edward Norton then kicks him. People get uppity and start to call Edward Norton racial slurs. Lots of hard R's in this movie.
So it's kid-friendly. It's a family-friendly film.
Gather around, children.
Yeah, his girlfriend is played by the chick from Waterboy. I don't think Bobby Boucher would have approved of her racism. So Danny's like, man, you changed, bro. What's going on? What happened to you? And he takes him to like I think they're just in like a bleachers or something. They're at like a park.
So thus begins the tale of Derek's time in jail. The happiest parts of this movie to me are these really quiet moments after Derek gets out of jail with his family, with his mom and with his sister. And predictably, time in jail is very, very segmented into gangs. Derek joins an Aryan gang in there, but while he's there, he is assigned to underwear folding duty. He meets an inmate named Lamont, who is black. For the first chunk of time, I think at least a year, he's still like embroiled in the game of prison gangs. Basically, there's a gang there that's like acting like white supremacists, but they're working with Mexican gangs to facilitate drug use and drug sales in the jail. He's like, they're not real, they're fake. I'm not gonna be a part of them. And in retaliation, the gang pins him down in the shower and sexually assaults him. Dr. Bob comes in to see him after it happens, where he's in the medical ward. Dr. Bob is basically like, I'll help you, but it's not going to be free. This is not an easy road you're about to go on. It's going to be tough, but if you're willing to stick it out, I will stick with you. Because Dr. Bob has a lot of reach between the schools and the police department that he consults with.
All these things kind of happen sort of at the same time. Like his gradual kind of friendship with Lamont was already happening right before all this stuff happened with the gang. Can I just say I'm so glad that nothing bad happened to Lamont within the span of this film that we know of.
Lamont is one of the saving graces of this movie. Because Lamont is one of the people who, like, he just basically puts it on the table, like, how stupid it is to live your life like this. You get one life to live, you get one shot at it, and why spend it just doing nothing but being angry and hating people? And Lamont's story is pretty tragic. He's in there for longer than Derek is. He's in there for stealing a TV right next to a donut shop, which happens to have cops in it. While trying to steal the TV, he falls and the TV hits the foot of one of the police officers. So they tweak his case for it to include assaulting an officer.
Even though he only dropped it, he gets 6 years. And he only dropped it because the officer grabbed his arm. And I like that scene because Edward Norton's like, come on, man. Like, you chucked it at him, right? Like, it's just me here. Like, come on, you chucked it. And he was like, no, I didn't. I dropped it.
Yeah, Edward Norton still hasn't completely let go of his biases. He's like, you did something. You had to have done something. He's like, I didn't. They attacked me. The TV fell, hit the officer on the foot. They threw in assaulting an officer, and I got 6 years. The miscarriage of justice that Lamont has gone through and is still going through is now right in Derek's face. Edward Norton is befriending Lamont, but only Lamont. He's not friends with the black gangs and he's not friends with the white gangs. He's like waiting to die. From all sides, he's like, someone in prison's going to kill me. But it doesn't happen. The day comes where Derek's about to get out and he goes and sees Lamont. You're why I'm alive, aren't you? You put a word in with the gangs to not hurt me. And Lamont doesn't deny it, but he doesn't confirm it. But it's like, he did. So Derek's like, I owe you. I like this scene. There's a bit of a parallel going on with Lamont and Dr. Bob in that both of them played the long game in wanting to change Derek, in wanting to believe in the better aspects of his humanity, rather than what his father baked into him and what he decided was right because his father was killed in such a manner.
In my head canon, after this movie, after Lamont gets out, they become best friends. In my head canon.
And so he gets back to writing his paper. As he's writing the paper, he types a very interesting sentence that he erases. He types out, had Danny testified at Derek's trial, Derek probably would have gotten life. Had the system worked the way it was supposed to, he'd still be there way longer than Lamont. Derek and Danny get home after he's done telling the story and take all of the Nazi paraphernalia off of the bedroom wall. Danny gets to school. He goes into the bathroom and he's got his paper in there that he's going to bring to the principal, and he's in the bathroom and he turns around and the black student, I think it's the same one he blew the smoke into his face, just pulls out a gun and shoots him. Derek runs in and finds his brother's body in the bathroom. We hear what Danny wrote in his paper. The cycle of violence circled back around and claimed Danny's life just as Danny was at the cusp of making a really big change in his life.
It ain't easy being white.
It ain't easy being brown.